Guys, Harry from TeamCasual here with episode 3 of the Cyber Angels series. Now, this is the actual list that I've ended up with. This is the list that I find to be most consistent and also the one that locks your opponent down the most. You play Perfection, Saphira, and the Star Seraphs, and you can search them all, obviously. We've talked about this deck in previous episodes. And I've decided that I actually like running Christia in this version, as well as One Honest, because they're both searchable when you need them. And this didn't actually brick as much as I thought it would. But I've actually proxied this deck out in real life, and I've been test playing it against Monarchs and Cosmo and all the other meta decks, and it turns out that it plays very, very well. I'm very happy to see that. So this is probably the version I'm going to play when this deck hits the TCG. But today in particular, we're looking at specifically side deck cards as well as bad matchups. Anyway, I have a replay that I want to show you guys, and this isn't this replay isn't from the version that I like to play now. This is actually the Heradic version that I was playing at the time. But one of the bad matchups I've noticed is Psy-frames. They're actually really hard to play against. I mean, I know you could say that for a lot of decks, but this deck in particular, you really can't afford to get your stuff negated, like your spells. You see here, he actually stops my Petite Angel. Um, I draw from Cupidity, draw again, and I go for my Ritual Summon. And as I try to get my plays off here, he's just going to make it really hard for me to put anything on board that's really notable. So he goes for Circuit here, goes for Zeta again, and I just go into Beals. He gets rid of my Beals, so here I get my cards back. He goes Overload, clears my board, and just starts poking for game. Now at this point, it's really hard to get my momentum back. So I try to go for Sanctuary. I get a search off. I ditch to search, and then we get E to 10, Ben 10 to search 2, a spell and a monster. He banishes my E to 10, so I can't boost my monsters up, unfortunately. And now he's going to get Circuit again, go for an Omega. So he's training Omega to my Cupidity. I lose 2 cards. Now he's just gonna beta this. So all my field presence is just going out the window here. See, his board's getting pretty ridiculous, as you can tell, and I can protect it with my field spells, but they only go so far. So you see here he has full control of the board. His overloads face up. He's got Omegas, he's got Zetas. Now, at this point, it really doesn't matter. What I do. It's very hard to come back. So I had to fold right there. The matchup is really hard. Also, as a note, our easy matchups are Monarchs is pretty easy. Um, pure pure BA and PK Fire is actually a little bit more difficult because you have so many effects going off. Any deck that has a lot of effects going off at once is somewhat hard to deal with because our perfections have to last, and if perfection can't negate everything they have, then you're really looking at a tough field to deal with because the idea is just to negate everything obviously with perfection, but if you run out of fairies and they are not done pushing, then it's pretty much game over, or you have to hold a Manju or a Scepter and in hopes of coming back next turn, which is quite a bit difficult in this deck, unfortunately. But so any deck that can really spam their effects is quite difficult for us to deal with, as well as Kaijus. Kaijus are a very hard side deck card to deal with. So in the time that this is meta, I'm most likely going to be siding out my Perfection engine into a pure Cyber Angel engine just to avoid getting Kaiju'd over by BA or maybe by some other decks. But I feel like Perfection is great in the game one because whatever you're going into it, obviously it's a blind matchup, so you just want to be able to negate everything and try to steal your first win. And 90% of the time, you can open up a win. Or no, not 90. I'd say like more like 70. You can open up a win if you have three fairies in hand. It's not too difficult. Anyway, we're going to be looking at some side deck cards. Possible side deck cards are Griseal Prison. If you control a tribute, ritual, and/or fusion summoned monster, neither player can special summon. Neither player can synchro summon or XYZ summon, and all the effects of XYZs and synchros are negated, and they cannot attack. And this lasts until the end of your opponent's turn. It's pretty ridiculous. You know, this is kind of like a vanities, but also like a I don't even know. So they can't attack and they can't summon them. So it really puts them in a tight spot here. So this card is already on the rise. Now, if you take a look at it, it was pretty worthless back in April, June. I mean, not April, June, like March, April. It was pretty worthless, but now that we're pushing into June, the cards actually become about $1. If you look down here, you'll see a few of them for $1. If you plan on playing this deck, I would probably pick up some Griseal Prisons. Unfortunately, the price has already spiked to $1, but another card we want to be looking at is Consecrated Light. Now, it eats up your normal summon, but it says neither player can normal or special summon dark monsters or declare an attack with the dark monster. This card cannot be destroyed by battle with the dark monster, and you take no damage from that battle, which means that any dark deck that you play against is just going to be fearing this normal summon because if they can't get over it with spells and traps, they essentially lose the game. That means Dark Destroyers and, stuff like Evil Swarms, if you see that at your locals, this is just going to be a great side deck card to go into if you're playing Cyber Angels because, obviously all our monsters are light, so playing Consecrated Light means we can just search our Honest and keep this thing on board. Not that we would really need it against a dark deck, but anyway, this card is really really good in this deck. Also, I don't yeah, they're very cheap, so if you plan on playing the deck, pick them up now for sure. I've already got my playset. The supers are, just freaking pennies, so it's not a bad idea to pick them up. I would definitely look into that if you plan on playing the deck. But anyway, I'll probably get back to you next episode with some more duels with this version of the deck, and that's been episode 3 of Cyber Angels. Keep it casual.